Hi, Matthias.
Good morning.
Good.
How are you?
I'm good. I'm good. So good to see you.
So lovely to see you. And I'm sorry for this confusion. I mean, I am confused still, and I still don't understand if I Google Pacific Standard Time and British Standard Time, Google gives me two different times. And I don't understand how this is possible.
I
So
always get
sorry.
confused. So I understand. Also, me from India coming back, but now I'm in Sarajevo, so I'm on European time. Which, but yeah, I also get confused. But this was made by our coordinator Anita, and I think it's right. I don't know, but thanks
No,
for
no, no.
the time.
What you did is right. My other call, it gives me two times anyway. Doesn't matter. It's just very confusing. I don't understand how British Standard Time and Pacific Standard Time that are supposed to be the same give me two different Google search results. But
Maybe some, I don't know, some maybe
I
something
don't know either.
in your goal. But in any case, thank you so much for finding the time, considering that you are abroad. I really appreciate. Thank you. You're always very, very friendly with us, Terre di Cinema. And yeah, I want to tell you this is so it's meant to be a podcast like we did once back during COVID times. Then we did few more with other. The latest one I did was with Seamus McGarvey. And and an abstract of this will be also on our magazine of the AIC bulletin of the that is the new magazine of the Italian Society of Cinematographers. Therefore, I'm recording, of course. And yeah, my idea was to do a discussion, the three of us, focusing also, of course, on your relationship, which is now, I believe, is what, decades long, no? 20 years, probably.
It is, yes, I think our first short we did 20 years ago, which is crazy to say, but yeah, time flies.
Yeah, time does, time, time does fly. It was also 2015 when you came to Sicily, which I hope this summer is going to mark another anniversary and you will be back with us. I already told you this, and of course, hopefully, we will discuss more into details if you're going to be available in around that time.
Yeah, I mean, if all goes well, that is the plan. Yeah, but you know our lives, how
Yeah,
unpredictable
sure.
this is. But yeah, I mean, I still have very fond memories, and it's been a beautiful experience. And I think with Laszlo, if we can organize it, that the two of us could be there, I think that could lead to some interesting conversations for sure.
Absolutely, absolutely. And maybe who knows, also screening Moulin, which I have to say, I haven't seen it yet. I don't know. I don't think it has been distributed in Italy for sure, not in India. Anyway,
No, no, no. Yeah, it was just it just premiered in Cannes, and I think the earliest audiences will see it is gonna be in France end of October. So I don't think anything before that is realistic.
hmm.
But we have Orphan to show, which is probably my best work.
Wow,
So yeah, that's something I'm extremely proud of.
oh wow, oh wow. So we'll talk. Maybe that could be something we can arrange. Also, we'll see what Laszlo say. Would you like to? Should we start as we wait for Laszlo? What do you think? Maybe.
Yeah, I'm happy to start. I texted Laszlo. I think he's gonna join us probably in 10 minutes. Ideally, hopefully.
Okay, no.
So
So I would say we can hear from you basically how this collaboration started.
sure.
What would you say about it?
Um, we have a mutual friend who's also a filmmaker, and while I was studying in Los Angeles at AFI, between my first and second year, I went back to Hungary, where I live, and our this friend of ours was planning on shooting a short film. And this is the short film called Before Dawn, which you might have seen. And and Laszlo was there because he just came back from France where he used to live. So we met during the production and pre-production of that short film, and then he said that he also has a project that he wanted to shoot, and he asked me if I would be interested, and I said absolutely. And that project turned out to be a short film called With a Little Patience, which is probably one of my favorite short films I've ever done. And what was very interesting about it, that it turned out to be like a case study for what Son of Saul became. It was a very, very interesting process for me because Laszlo had these ideas that were very, I wouldn't say alien to me, but like I just felt that I'm not sophisticated enough to understand what he was trying to say. And we had no reference points, and we had no, it almost felt like we were talking different languages. So I was really having a hard time understanding what he was after. So also you want a camera to be moving with this person, but only in close-ups. You don't want to reveal. So like, how is it gonna? I was very, very confused. But it was very intriguing. I was like, oh, this is super interesting. I don't know what this
Well,
guy is
here is
talking
Laszlo.
about.
Let him,
Oh,
yes. Perfect.
fantastic.
We're talking about him.
And
And here he is. Hi, Laszlo.
One
Hi,
sec.
there he
Laszlo. Nice.
is.
Hi. Thanks
Hi.
for
Nice
joining
meeting
us.
you.
Nice to meeting you at distance. Thanks for finding the time. Welcome.
Thank you. Thanks for having us.
We just started, so we went straight into discussion of how your collaborations started. I just want to say we are recording this podcast.
Yeah,
This will
absolutely.
be published on our YouTube channel, and another
Okay.
will be for translated in Italian for our magazine, the Italian Society of Cinematographers magazine.
Should I go horizontal then?
Oh, as you like. Yeah, I guess.
Yeah. Okay. All
It's a
right.
more
CinemaScope.
cinematic aspect ratio.
Good.
It's right, okay. So we just started our talk, Laszlo. We were talking about how your collaboration started. So basically, Matthias was giving his version.
I'm sure it was a very entertaining one.
I was actually just talking about when we started working together, and when I first heard about your concept of With a Little Patience,
Hmm.
how I wasn't really understanding what you're after. And because we had no reference points, and we had no, that we had nothing to compare it to, and I was just very lost in the beginning, and it took me a long time to really figure it out for myself what it is that you're after. And then when it was I'm kind of slow, so it took me took me a while until I really
15 years. It's still an ongoing process, right?
it's still
That's
an
the one.
ongoing
Yes,
process. I mean, I always ask him, whenever I
that's
hear
the
from
beauty,
you.
no? That's, I guess, is the beauty of
but i
collaboration.
think but i think I'm getting better.
But
I
it's
think
also it's a process. I mean, you need time to understand. One needs time to I need time to understand. What I want.
But
It's not clear cut from the beginning.
so
and
you
it's
are
and
in that
it's
state of silent telepathic understanding after, or how does it work between you and Seth? Like, do you
But
discuss?
on the set, I think on the set it's more intuitive and silent. I think it's before that we wage the battles, that have to be waged. I think there is a sort of conflict of different, things and approaches and understandings, and it's not always. It's not always easy. That's why we need time to prepare a movie. But I think once we're on the set, we're both on the same wavelength. That's what I feel. No, Matthias, maybe that.
absolutely no,
Yeah.
no. It I wouldn't even say we're waging wars at
No.
all. It basically comes from the fact that my frustration, the lack of understanding, because, and I think I keep talking about this with László, is like, I despise the format of a script, because if you read a script without proper conversations with the director, I find it, most of the time, I find it very misleading, and especially with László, where, he has every single time, it's like super high concept, and there are many ideas that that are the foundations of his films, but a script format is not designed to carry that information. A script is basically the description of what the location is and the dialogue. So it has nothing to do with what is the idea behind it. And if you look at Laszlo's work, every single film is like super high concept, and there's a lot going on, and there's a lot to understand, and the locations and the dialogue are just the icing on the cake. So my frustration comes when and again, I am learning, and we are learning this together, is like, so, like talking about our newest project that we're about to shoot next spring, it is again something that I read, and I because all I have is the information that is in the script, and I read it as like, okay, and I started to think about something, and then we had our first initial conversation with Laszlo, and that totally changed everything. So, and it's just a beautiful thing, because how we are putting words into these onto these ideas that are going to shape the way we're going to be making this movie. And yes, I totally agree with Laszlo. By the time we are on set, we are done.
Yeah.
We reached a very, very strong understanding of what the film should be, and by the time we are on set, it's like a totally parallel. There's no
Yeah.
miscommunication. There is no conflict whatsoever. So when we are on set, it's like a super fine-tuned machine. I think. I hope. I
Yeah.
mean, that's my.
Yeah, that's what my experience is. I think that's why the preparation again is so important. You have to, Mátyás has to understand, other people have to understand. It's the director's plight to explain as much as possible with imagery, with references, with films, with, we use a lot of photographs, paintings, lighting examples, just to bring the sort of to a common zone of a common dimension. And I think it's important because also we're always making, in my case, I'm always making prototypes. These are never films that you can say it's like the other film, the other movies that on this subject, or there are references, there are traditions that are we find, or scenes that we find interesting. Mátyás comes and shows a scene, I come and show a scene from a movie that I like, or really a mood. But it's really hard to say, oh, this is a film like that. Or that's why in financing they use the comps. It's a new word I learned recently. Comps, comparisons, and I'm so foreign to this, because yes, you can compare, but film should find its own DNA, and it doesn't mean that it shouldn't be part of a larger tradition. I think quite the contrary, it has to to somehow have ramifications to other works of arts. But in our case, it's a very wide, it's a wide array of art, and so that's why I really think that the long preparatory process is important in films like that.
But in this respect, in fact, Matthias a bit anticipated me, because I wanted to ask you something about the script. In fact, especially for such a specific style that you have of filmmaking, style. And if I may say, it's also a lot about what you leave off frame. Not only what you show, but also what you don't show. Especially Son of Saul is a movie that I deeply loved, and I had the privilege to discuss it with Matthias in depth when he came to us in Sicily, and now, of course, with you. And yeah, that really, as a cinematographer myself, really intrigues me. Your writing process. How do you develop a script, especially in communicating to the cinematographer what you want to achieve?
Um, I write scripts um, that are, as Maja said, are not, commentaries, so they are dry. I give some indications of lighting and some indications of mood, but I think what's at the really heart of the scene, and that we'll be referring to that in this conversation, is often missing because the sort of core of the scene, the core of the movie, is something you cannot write down in a script. It's really hard. So it's more like a phenomenology. The script is the phenomenon, and the outward expression of human action and interaction. And I am in many I'm drawn to the question of the individual versus of the crowd. That's why I like painters like Goya. The sort of the conflict between the individual and the singular, and the multiple, the crowd, the sort of madness, the swirling chaos of human interaction. And it's always in my movies, it's in many of my scenes. So I, even in the film that we're preparing, there are a lot of crowd scene that we are experiencing from the point of view of the individual. So I try to write down as much as possible what's going on for example, in the background, or when we go into the background and we became the background, the background becomes the foreground. And then I integrate that onto the script level. So there are things that other people wouldn't write down. I would. So and sometimes it creates a sort of baffling effect for someone who reads a script like that, because they say, oh, so what is the most important thing? And sometimes being lost is the most important thing in this kind of filmmaking, or this sort of diving into a reality. So being in the sort of here and now of one individual. So that I'm always trying to communicate that already at a script level. That means also it creates a little bit of danger of chaos, the feeling of chaos with whoever reads the script. So that's, I think, also the sort of confusion that Mátyás talks about in the early stages of us making a movie.
I have speaking of which, I have a question for both of you, and this because we mentioned with a little patience as a start of a path, and of course, and I'm also very interested in the concept that you use the definition prototypes. In fact, a great Italian director gave the same definition that many years ago. He said cinema is an industry of prototypes. It's an industry because it has an industrial dimension,
Mm.
but we produce prototypes every
Yeah.
every
Yeah.
product. Style wise, there are traits that have marked your filmography, your cinema. As we were saying, the track and shot, the shot of field, the relationship which I found very interesting between background and foreground,
Yeah.
foreground processing the background. Uh, how do you? What I'm trying to say is how you stay loyal to a style while keeping experimenting. What is the balance? And I'm interested, if you like, both from properly cinematographer point of view and the director's point of view, both your vision about this.
Mátyás, you want to say something about that?
Sure. I mean, I don't think we are concerned with style, to be honest. Like, that's not something that is on our minds. I think the way I feel about it is that every single time when we start a new project, we are defining our own rules, meaning what are the tools, like not necessarily the actual tools, but like film language tools that we are gonna utilize in telling the story or forming the film. And I don't think it's I mean, I just don't feel it's a style. Obviously, if you put our films next to each other, they are there are similarities between them, but that just comes from the fact that those films were made by the same people, with the same sensibilities and the same taste. But I think, I mean, if you put, let's say, Son of Saul and Orphan next to each other, they are very, very different films in stylistic terms. Uh, One of them is handheld and shallower depth of field. The other one is dolly and zoom and crane and much deeper depth of field. The you know the so everything about them, if you break it down, is going to be different. But there's a certain sensibility that both of us, I think, carry that will make them somewhat similar. But again, I don't think it's a style. I think it's just their mutual sensibilities. So just to try to answer the question, I really don't think that we are concerned about style at all. It's there are similar ideas behind all of our films. You know, there's a saying that every filmmaker is kind of making the same film over and over again. And I do think that if you put our four films next to each other, there are like fundamental ideas in each that are connected and are related to each other. So but I do think that we are trying to find different ways to explore those in terms of the language we are using.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. I don't we don't talk in terms of style. I think that's a sort of byproduct of the sort of internal logic of a picture. That's true that we're very concerned in these movies about the sort of vision of the world of the through the eyes of one individual. It's something that I find very important, and I somehow am attached to this. I've always made films in which the protagonist defines the main protagonist defines the point of view. Although we, for example, in Moulin, and also in Orphan, we have introduced sort of phantomatic point of views that are the point of view in Orphan. I think more we talked about the sort of the ghost of the father point of view, and in Moulin, the French movie we finished recently, is sort of paranoid vision around the main character who is about to be caught. And so there is a sort of worldview that defines the visual strategy, and the worldview is embedded with the main character, and the sort of it's predicated on the premise that an individual is very limited in their point of view. That's something that I really find important, especially in our day and age, to put back the individual in the sort of the possibilities of one individual in cinema, in cinematic, translate this into cinematic terms and language. And but these are all in a way, I think, I've always been interested in the confluence of reality and the sort of mental space, and in all my movies there is the idea of a psychic labyrinth that's projected into the world, and this is something that comes back. It's in Son of Saul in a way, the concentration camp and the sort of internal being a prisoner, being beyond being a prisoner of a concentration camp, being a prisoner in the main character's own mind. In Sunset, it is it is a very personal labyrinth as well. It's a maze, it's almost like we're in the sort of realm between the sane mind and madness of the main character, and how it brings down the whole world. In Orphan, between the child's point of view and the point of view of the adults around him, and with the conflict it creates. In Moulin, the individual in the totalitarian world, and which is also present in Orphan. So these are all stemming from the material, the how we anchor the movie, and then it blooms into something that I think defines mood and style and editing and so on and so forth.
Absolutely. But speaking of Sunset, that was for sure a movie that also present more elaborated settings as compared to probably I think a bigger scale, we can say, no, in terms of
Yeah.
also and so what was your for both of you, how did you approach to this product, to this production, and what was the things that stayed with you the most out of this experience?
Mátyás?
Which project? Sorry.
Sunset.
Sunset. Yeah, I mean, it's I don't. Yeah, I'm actually not sure how to answer this question because it's yeah.
It's hard.
László, start.
Well, as I said, it's
I can change question. Huh?
no. I think Sunset is concerned with the dimension, the intradimension between reality and the unreal, and how things are objectively unreal or just subjectively unreal, and how the subjective becomes the objective in a way, how the undoing on one's mind is a sort of has ramifications in the whole society, or the other way around. This is the question of how the human mind on level of an individual, and the human psyche in a sort of collective level, civilization level, how these things are intertwined. Somehow I think we think that history is a sort of cold list of facts, but I think it's in the hearts and minds of people that history is being made. And I think this is a sort of is also, there is a philosophy, I think, behind that. It's not just an empty, it's nothing, never a stylistic question. It always stems from a very deep fear and interrogation about the nature of civilization that's always interested me. Ever since I was interested in, as a kid, I was already reading 19th century Gothic horror stories. There is a sense of, the big question of how modernity, how reality, how the industrial world, how all this, created a sort of very, repressed underlying world that still defines humanity, but we're trying not to, pay attention to it. The sort of propension for evil, the barbarian tendency that lies within us. These are all things that have always interested in me. And then we go into Cormac McCarthy territory with Out of Dark. That's also the same. We're talking about good and evil, and how these are the most important questions I think that art should be concerned with, and I'm definitely trying to, to have my share of it. So I guess Sunset is a sort of already a first approach to something more unreal, in the cinema that I make, and this interesting zone between the real and the unreal.
Maybe you're gonna. I always think Blood Meridian would be an amazing adaptation
Well, we're not gonna be making Blood Meridian, but Outer Dark is a first version of Blood Meridian. It's Cormac McCarthy wrote it, and I think it's the first version of Blood Meridian in a way. So it has, it has connections, and Blood Meridian would be so expensive to make, and they're not allowing him to do it. It's one of my favorite books, so I'm definitely, very attached to it. But Out of Dark again has this the same questions.
So that's interesting. We're anticipating. Honestly, I didn't know that you guys are working on such project.
Oh, okay.
Say something about it, something more about it, since we're touching this.
It's an adaptation of Out of Dark, which is Cormac McCarthy's second book. It's a sort of dark fairy tale, but also with a sort of psychological horror and elements. It's like a dark fairy tale going into the sort of unsure dimension between the what's inside and what's outside. And it's called Out of Dark because it's a sort of projection of the interior, a very dark interior, onto the world and how it changes the world. And it's a question. It's a story between two, a sister and a brother, in America at the turn of the century, kind of, early first part of this 20th century, and there's a baby involved, and there are a trio of killers around them, and it's very, very apocalyptic in a way in its denouement. So that's all I'm going to say at this stage.
Okay, that's Matthias. Can you say something from your perspective about this project?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's something that we just started our discussions on about, and yeah, there's a lot to explore for me. Again, this is another example of I got the script without having the conversation with Laszlo. I read it, and then once we started to talk about it, I realized the layers that are not present in the script because it just, again, it's a format that does not allow for all those ideas to be put down on paper. And yeah, I find it extremely exciting. It's a little bit of a new territory for me, although the fundamental ideas, I think we are carrying these from project to project, as Laszlo described before. So it's another version of our explorations. And yeah, it's very, very exciting to me. I mean, I'm always very excited about the unknown, right? We are always trying to reinvent our own tool sets and our approaches, and what are the tools that are gonna achieve the effect that we want to achieve. So it's something that I'm extremely excited about, and that's where we are. We are slowly starting to get more and more, digging ourselves into these ideas.
So I believe it's going to be an international production. You're shooting in the
Yes,
States.
we shoot in Eastern Europe, probably in Hungary,
Okay.
but it's an international American movie with international stars.
Speaking of which, I was curious to ask you, Laszlo, changing to the French language, how did it affect your pacing, maybe, on directing the actor, if there was any effect for this last movie?
It's the first time that my lead was a highly trained actor,
Oh.
in this case, we had two very highly trained, very excellent actors. So, but I have to say, it wasn't that different. The only thing was that, in Orphan, we had to work, every day to get the main actor to the sort of to the discipline, not only to the emotional dimension, because he was carrying that, but also to the discipline of delivering, in front of the camera. That's a very technical thing. But here on Moulin, I was very happy that at least we didn't, we didn't have to lose time getting the main actor to understand the proficiency of cinema acting. But he was very, very open to Gilles. I'm talking about Gilles Lelouch, but also Lars Eidinger. They were very open to me directing them. I believe in directing the actor, be there the amateur from the outskirts of Budapest or Leo DiCaprio. I think you have to direct the actors, and they need direction. I think in many films, actors are not directed; they direct themselves. And I believe that in Moulin, we achieved also something very interesting, because someone like Gilles, who is a very commercial actor in France, actually went to very pure, very honest, pure form of presence, almost like in Robert Bresson's cinema, or in Antonioni. It's a very pure, or Bergman, That's why I was telling Lars to, to imagine what Max von Sydow would do with Ingmar Bergman. I wanted, in a way, classical, in a good sense, classical screen presence and force of presence. And for that, you have to, the actor has to trust the director to tone it down whenever it's necessary. You don't have to compensate. You have to be, you have to work on your presence. And then you have to be open-minded and let the director tell you, to guide you in a way. So it becomes really a back and forth. And both in Gilles' case and Lars' case, we did that, and we both of them were very, very, very accepting and very tolerant to my direction, which was, it's important, but it's not obviously always the case with the actors of that level, that they give themselves to the project at this level.
Matthias, let's step one step back. You mentioned before, which was interesting for me to know, that Orphan is your favorite movie. Regarding
I think Orphan
your craft,
is probably my best work. And I do love that film very, very much. There's a
you
lot
said
that I relate to
that,
in that story. And yeah, I think we were able to.
but I think
You're being cut a little bit, I think.
Oh, sorry.
No, not you. I think we just
you've been cut at the beginning.
Yeah.
Me, I've been
I
cut.
just said that it is probably.
I think it's you. Yeah, Mátyás, I can hear him well. I
Now
think
I
it's
can
your
hear you.
internet that's.
I'm in Sarajevo. I don't
Okay,
know.
now you're back. Okay, that's why. Sarajevo, internet.
I don't know. This Wi-Fi.
Yeah, yeah. I could hear Mátyás very well. That he was
Yeah,
Orphan. Orphan was a very special film from him. It is for me as well. What else did you say, Mátyás?
Yeah, I think why I relate to it so much is because although obviously I did not grow up during the 50s in Hungary, like in the darkest communist oppression, there is something that I think I understand about that, and there is a certain mood that I have connections to. And I think in terms of cinematography, I think I think the film is very successful portraying that mood and capturing that mood, and that's why I feel very close to that film. Yeah, that is all.
But can you tell us a bit more about the cinematography of the movie? And we'll watch it
Um,
in Sicily, hopefully.
say it again.
Hopefully, we'll watch it in Sicily in September. This is
Yeah. I mean,
there's the goal in a proper
what
theater.
what can I say? I mean, we should probably discuss it once you've seen it, so we have specific
Yeah,
questions
yeah,
to develop. I don't know how to start and what to say. I think it's better once we've seen it is to then explore it.
yeah.
Uh, in any case, speaking of cinematography, of course, it was part of this talk to discuss film. Uh, my understanding, Laszlo, is you've only shot on film, right? Your feature.
Correct, correct.
And can you tell us something about this choice?
Well, it's never. I mean, it's never a choice for me. I mean, why would I shoot on anything else when I have film? You know, it's like uh, I have plastic flowers in front of me. Uh, I prefer having the real flowers than the plastic flowers. Uh, um, they just it
That's
just
a good
looks better.
analogy.
It just looks better. It actually smells. It's no, but seriously, I think film, not only shooting but also showing, is the quintessence of cinema. There's a magic to it. I don't understand why, you know, especially Europe was so eager to give up the magic of film for, the pixelized TV in the public kind of experience, and also it cannot defend itself with the added value of film, not only in its quality and its depth and its texture and its latitude and its feel, but it's also in its very essence and very way of functioning. It is still images that become movement in your head. It is half of the time you're in the darkness when you watch a movie on film, and so it's a hypnotic experience. You are half of the time with yourself. There is an element of projection of you into the film and back from the movie into you. I think the sort of inflationary tendency of shots in digital cinema, the fact there's no more rehearsal, the lack of discipline of directing, the lack of choice in directorial attitudes, the overall disappearing of craft, and the sort of the crowning of the computer, and the sort of disappearance of the brain, and it all corresponds to a form of slavery that we're giving to the computer, and it's becoming our master. And so, in a way, I am for the liberation of the human psyche, as opposed to the closing off through pixels and computer decisions. I think it's a civilizational question. I think it's a civilizational loss, and it should have been defended by those who have betrayed it. And they betraying the audience. They're betraying the sort of the singular, the subjective experience of the audience. Because when you make film on film, it puts you in an obligation to choose, as a director, as a cinematographer, to be in a dangerous situation. It's not easy. You have to earn it. You also have to make decisions that will push you to find your singular voice. Interestingly, the digitalization has corresponded to a uniformization of cinematic output. And you know, in the 70s, you would never edit together films by different directors. You would have seen the difference. Today, you intercut easily because they all seem the same. And I think that has aesthetic, professional consequences that are very deep and run deep in a sort of civilizational manner. So that would be my pitch for film against
That's a very
digital.
effective. It's a very effective pitch, I would say.
Okay, good, good, and I mean it.
And that's the beauty, and that's why it's even most effective. It's like, it's like we say, like recording the movie rather than shooting it. It's just probably in a in a very
The
short
recording,
way of
yes.
saying that
And
that
also, I think there's also another element is that in film, it feels different than reality. You know, that's why I think all the attempts to create a sort of second reality instead of creating something that's not reality, it's something different. You know, is these attempts are actually bad because if it's a different dimension, as with film, the audience have to project themselves into a different reality. There's distance. If there's no distance but just something immediate, there's nothing to do. You know, you become external to all this. So I think that it runs very, very deep in the sort of on a psychic level.
but I have to ask Matthias his opinion about this. Also, he has also shot on digital, most notably beautiful work on The Wrestler. And that was shot on digital, right?
Are you referring to Iron Claw?
Yes, sorry.
It's on film.
Iron Claw is on 35.
Oh, Iron Claw is on 35. My bad. But you have shot something on.
Something.
Please tell me, no?
Something. No, I
Sunday
shot a
videos on
film.
his kids, I guess. So,
I shot a film called
so
Faux on Alexa 65 because it was shot in Australia, and back then the lab in Melbourne is just reopening.
oh,
But
that's good news.
back then when we were shooting there, the closest lab that we would have been able to use was Photocam Los Angeles, and that was a little bit too far away to for us to be able to afford. So we ended up shooting digital. But yeah, I mean, my choice will always be film, and I wouldn't be able to be as sophisticated as Laszlo to tell you why. But what I'm just drawn to is when this is my, like it's for me it's fairly straightforward. If I have an image that I recorded digitally, and if I have an image which might be the same shot that was recorded on film, I put this side by side onto a big screen, I just feel that the impact of these images are very different. And I just personally I relate to the one that is on film on a much deeper level. And I actually I don't think I can describe what the difference is, but I think it just probably has to do with the fact that one is organic and us human beings are organic, and we just find ourselves in that image more, and because of that there is a much stronger impact. So, and that's our job, to make images that have an impact on our audience. So why not use the tools that gives us from the get-go, from the very beginning, an image that is just captures the audience stronger. And I don't want to like overthink, I don't want to over complicate this. For me it is simple as that. And I really enjoy the workflow of shooting on film. For me it's a very clean and very almost simple workflow, and it's a workflow I can control. In you compare to a digital workflow that is can be adjusted and interfered with so easily by so many other people, and I just want to avoid that. I wanna maintain my control over the images the director and myself create. So, and I find that very, very important.
But in this respect, in fact, from a cinematographer point of view, when you shot on digital, do you use a DIT? What is your relationship? Or you don't have a DIT? Do you rely on the DIT on set?
Um, yeah, I do, but it is. I want to treat digital as just like I would be shooting on film as much as possible. So basically, I'm not really into lots or digital workflows. I treat it as a negative, and then in as you would do in with film, I treat that material as my negative, and then do the grade after. So I'm not into like specifying a look. I don't even like this terminology when you're applying a look. I mean, what is that? Like that is your movie. So no, so I treat it as if I would be shooting film.
Yeah, it seems to me also that the importance of the process related to the outcome is so much overlooked. Nowadays, also the marketing pushing for, like, I was,
Oh, we're losing you.
I was
We lost you.
listening to this
We can't hear you, Vincenzo.
uh,
Yeah, we're
claim
losing you.
about some. You can't,
I think the
I'm so
internet in
sorry.
Sarajevo
This is
is
beyond my
dropping.
control.
Yeah.
Yeah, I hope at least I have a few more questions that I really like to ask you. But can you hear me?
Yeah,
Otherwise, I can
Yeah.
try to check
Not
with my
yet.
mobile phone. Yeah, no, I wanted to ask
No.
you uh, going back to Moulin. Something has to be said about the film lab in Budapest, I wanted to say, because I think it's amazing what they're doing. And if you can tell us, can you guys listen to me? I don't know.
yeah,
Yeah,
we can
we
hear
hear
you.
you.
Okay, so I wanted to mention that it's fantastic what they're doing, keeping film available, the entire process. Matthias, can you tell me what was your collaboration with them on this last project? And also, I've heard that I was reading, because of course I haven't seen the movie, I was reading there was some specific day for night process that you've applied and some double bleach bypass. I don't know if
Yeah.
you.
So we started a collaboration with the Hungarian Film Lab and a genius colorist and all around wizard, which is really crazy for me to say. He's much younger than myself, but László
Mhm.
Kovács, that's his name. Funny enough, he's an expert in both the analog processes and the digital processes. And we started working with him on Son of Saul, and we made all of our films with him. And on Son of Saul, it was very interesting because we really followed a very traditional analog workflow. We actually cut the negative and printed, and that was our film. And once we had that printed 35 millimeter film, then we used the scans of the negative, and we created a DCP that corresponded perfectly to how the 35 millimeter print looked. Later, we started to go into the digital intermediate process, which is kind of this was the standard in the late 90s, early
Oh
2000s.
yeah, Elito.
And then we started to explore those tools, but combining them with analog processes. So both on Orphan and on Moulin, we used a very similar approach, which involves a bleach bypass, negative processing, then scanning, then a digital intermediate, and then a film out to a digital to an intermediate stock that is bleach bypass again. No, sorry, that is not. Sorry. So it's a film out to a intermediate stock, and then from that stock we created a print that was bleach bypass. So that's why it's double bleach bypass, because the negative is bleach bypassed and the positive, the final print, is bleach bypassed again. So there's a lot of trickery, and there's a lot of ideas, and a lot of technical solutions that goes into this,
And testing.
and a lot of testing, obviously, how to create bleach bypass print that corresponds to the digital intermediate that we were able to achieve.
Oh.
That
Stock did you use for the print?
Sorry?
Which stock did you use for the print?
As far as I understand, there's only 83, which is like the regular print stock now. There used to be the Premiere, which was 93, and I don't think that's available. But because it's a bleach bypass, we don't need the extra contrast that the Premiere used to carry. We actually create that contrast by leaving the silver in the actual print. And it goes back to what Vittorio Storaro was exploring in the good old Technicolor days. It goes back to
ENR, and that was kind of the process, basically.
correct, and also what Roger Deakins was exploring with 1984, and all these processes, and of course later what Darius was doing with many of his films, including Seven. So it's and then it was kind of forgotten. I feel like with the digital taking over, there is no need for any of this, and yeah, you can mimic the look, but just to have a print that has the actual silver in it and projecting that, we actually did side-by-side projection. We divided the screen. We had two projectors going, and we projected the same image simultaneously, and it was mind-blowing to see the difference between the digital, which was a really, really good digital projection, next to like AB, like side by side with a bleach bypass print. It was unbelievable to see the effect of the analog print. So
If you have any stills of that, that would be amazing.
I mean, I actually do have a little clip, but that was shot on my iPhone. That obviously doesn't really give you the effect and the difference between these two. But it's I mean, that's what we always do with László. We always end up with a print. Like, that is the product that we're creating. And yes, we have a digital version and the streamable digital variation and all that. But for us, when we feel that, okay, we have the print, and that is when we're done. That is that we have the actual film reels that can go into an archive and then can be pulled up 100 years from now. That's when we feel that we are done.
Film is done. You projected the print in Cannes, am I correct?
Yes, we were the only film since 2018, if I'm correct. So in 19. So yeah, 7 years. We were the first film to project on film, and it was beautiful. I mean, in Cannes, in the Lumière, Salle de Lumière, which is like massive, 2,400 people, extremely good quality projection. It was beautiful to see.
Yeah.
Stunning. It was very, very powerful, I think.
Yes.
But to go back to the other question you had, in Moulin, yes, we did something that I was very excited about, and that's a technology or methodology that I want to explore more, which was, I think, originally created by Hoyte, von Hoytema,
Yes.
on the films Nope and Ad Astra, where he used one digital camera that is shooting infrared and one film camera shooting through a 3D rig. And this time the 3D rig is not, you don't want to have the difference between the two eyes. The idea is to create the exact same image, but you have the infrared and you have the actual 35 millimeter negative shooting the same scene simultaneously. And this allows you to create a day for night effect that I think is the most true to what my eyes see when I'm outside at night. I always struggle with night exteriors, because I always feel that it's always like a weird translation of what night is, because you just can't capture. I mean, I don't know how to capture that on film. So when I kind of saw this in Nope, uh, I really felt like, oh, this is like a really, really interesting approach. So we started to research that and started to test. And once you see once you'll see the beginning of Mulan, you can tell me if we are successful or not. But I was actually very, very happy with what we were able to achieve. Like massive, massive wide shots shot during the day. You could see to the horizon, and I find it a very, very believable night effect. So I was very, very happy with that. And for our next project, we're gonna explore a variation of that, hopefully to you know to use.
That's very exciting. So all the night exteriors you shot day for night on Mulan.
No, no, it's only was one sequence, and then for other stuff we went with a night for night, very traditional approach.
Amazing. So what I wanted to ask also, I think, what was the shooting ratio, Laszlo? What is your shooting ratio in general as a director on Mulan?
Less than 1 to 10 in general.
So yeah, the standard. That's how you budget the movie for the 10 to,
Yeah, 1 to 10, basically.
which is
Yeah.
basically the standard, right, for film productions.
Yeah, I mean that's film. I mean, unless you're Stanley Kubrick and you want to take 100 takes, we can get it done for 10. You know.
So yeah, Terre di Cinema they shoot a 2-to-1 aspect ratio, but it's a bit different. But actually, Terre di Cinema has been shooting on 35 mil because Matthias had a big part in it, for which I always like to remind
Yeah, he told me.
that. And yeah, and it's interesting. It's we had more than hundreds now of filmmakers, young filmmakers from all over the world who came through, and always it's interesting to see that that the trajectory is always the same. There is a bit of fear, then there is wonder, there is amazement, also for the simplicity of it, and falling in love. And sometimes they continue to do this. And what would you say as an advice? I know it's give good advice is very difficult, but what would you say to young filmmakers who maybe feels intimidated or they think it's impossible to. I mean, you brought Pring to Cannes. That's incredible. And uh, what could you say as an advice?
Well, I would say don't be afraid, because it's only courage that can take you to interesting places. It's also, danger that takes you to interesting places. It will push you to be the best version of yourself. And don't be lazy with the digital. Go with the real deal.
Cannot add anything to that. I think, yeah, I mean, I know it's a privilege to shoot on film, but it's also a choice. And my experience has been that if you commit to it, if you have a partner in crime, the director, and if you stick together and say, we are going to shoot on film, I think it is possible. I think it is possible. You just, of course, sometimes you have to make little sacrifices on other things, but I do believe it's worth it in the long run.
Yeah.
One more thing I wanted to ask. Speaking of film, what do you think of Super 16? It's not a format that you have explored um, at all, I think, in your collaboration.
No, we always shot on 35. I'm not like it's a choice. I love what I'm seeing, and
Yes, me
we,
too.
we didn't have a project that required something
Yeah.
different. I actually want to go the other way. I want to explore bigger and bigger formats. Obviously, that is something I'm very excited about.
Yeah. Yeah, me too. I find Super 16 a little bit too grainy for my taste, but I mean it's a good entrance to film, I think, and would always, you know, if it's the right project, of course, 16 can be a good thing. But for so far, my films have been more suited for the 35, at least 35 millimeter.
And 35 is going to be the format of the new project.
Yes, partly. We're thinking about bringing it to parts to slightly bigger format, but we'll have to see how it pans out.
Well, then
Okay.
I would say thank you so much to both of you.
Thanks for having us. Very, very excited to be here. Thanks for your continuing defense of film. That's very important to us. Tell us how we can help. We're here.
Thank you so much, László. And for us, I think it's important that filmmakers like you are paving the road and keeping it under the highlights. And you are the most welcome in Sicily, and I will restate my invitation till you won't be able to. You'll have to surrender.
When is it?
It's gonna be September 11th. I thought about that weekend. We have a very nice movie theater there. We would like to also have a screening, possibly, and it's a weekend, the 11th. And
Let's discuss. Let's discuss. Let's keep the
yes,
conversation open.
absolutely. And yes, thanks again for finding the time. Thank you so much, Matthias.
Thank you.
Thank you, Vincenzo. It was a pleasure.
I
Take
hope
care.
yes, and yeah, and maybe I'll ask you for some production stills, Matthias, then on by email
Sure.
for the magazine. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Ciao.
Take care.
Bye-bye.
Arrivederci.
Ciao.
Ciao.